We're back with Emmett Berg, who's the director of Saucedo. Did I say that correct?
Yes, sir.
It looks like a fascinating movie. It's playing at deadCenter, and this is something that you directed. You know the boxer that's involved. Set us up as to how this came to be.
So boxing has been a part of my life in one way or another for quite a while. And I kind of grew up training at a boxing gym in LA called Churchill Boxing in Santa Monica. And in the course of the time that I spent there, I started to meet fighters and meet trainers and kind of, begin to get involved in the world of boxing a little bit. And Alex Saucedo was someone who I met and was someone who I began to form a relationship with, and was someone who, I always admired and was a big fan of his when he was fighting. He was quickly ascending the ranks and on his way to becoming a world champion. And he lived here in Oklahoma City, and he would come to LA and train, and so I would kind of see him when he was in the middle of these training camps that he would have. And there was just a part of me that always thought about how delicate his situation was, and how delicate most fighters' careers are, in the sense that they're oftentimes a fight or two away from never being able to fight again, or from having to go and find another career. So that kind of delicacy is always something that I think about, and feebleness when it comes to boxing. And Alex was someone who I grew close with, and then back in October of 2020, he had a fight that was actually during COVID in the bubble. It was kind of a weird time. There was no crowd, and he ended up suffering a accidental headbutt in the first round of that fight, which gave way to a brain hemorrhage. So he ended up losing the fight by decision, was taken immediately to the hospital, where he soon after was told that he would never be able to box again.
So he finished the fight even though he knew he was hurt.
He did.
So he comes, his career appeared to be ascending, correct? I mean,
Exactly.
He was on the way up, and all of a sudden you can't box again. So like you just mentioned, that had been part of your life. This was really the way he was feeding his family and making a living. This is where I think the story begins, correct? I mean, the real aspect of this. So pick it up from there.
Yeah, so kind of the weekend of his fight, I started reaching out to Tanya, his fiance, and started reaching out to him, and just at first making sure that they were okay, and then very quickly kind of getting engaged in these dialogues with them, and starting to really understand the extent of the situation and what kind of lay ahead of them, and what he was going to be coming home to. Within kind of that weekend, we kind of had these conversations, which started with Tanya starting to send me some footage and send me some photos of what was going on, and me with not knowing exactly what it was going to be, having a conversation with them about making a documentary and capturing this time in their lives as a way to inspire others, and as a way so that they didn't have to go through it quite as on their own. So within a week of him getting back to Oklahoma from Vegas, I came out here, and that was kind of the start of this project.
So my career's over with. There's obviously medical issues. Did he have health insurance?
He did have health insurance, but I believe there were a few kind of extenuating bills that he got that I don't know. I don't think he was helped out on.
That happens to everybody, seems like, right? So you've got that situation. So this is really, you're told you can't do something, and not only you can't do it anymore, but you have all of this injury, which is going to be impacting the rest of your life. What do you think it was like for him at that time, and his fiance?
I think it was absolutely terrifying. I think those were some of the hardest and the darkest and the most uncertain days of their life. And I think when you take someone that is at that level, no matter what their profession is, let alone a professional athlete, and kind of the discipline, and structure that requires, when suddenly that is unplugged, it kind of, I think it feels like everything kind of slips away, and you literally don't know how to fill, the 12 hours of your day or what it might be, and it's a as drastic of a kind of pivot of everyday life as I had ever seen, and I know that I think that he would probably attest to him having to find a new career as being the hardest fight that he fought.
Why did he want to share this with the world?
He wanted to share this with the world to inspire others, I really think. And I think that there's so much stigma in this sport, and there's so much stigma in sports in general, and when it comes to mental health, and when it comes to having honest conversations about the kind of finite aspect of professional sports, and the situation that every athlete will be in at one point in their life of having to kind of say goodbye and put down a dream, but then to that same extent, hopefully it kind of can find its audience outside of sports, and I think that he knew that, and wanting to stress and allow others to see how important his family was to him, and kind of a unique ability to share an incredibly vulnerable story just to inspire others.
There is, over the last decade or so, you've seen a lot of science about, let's say, professional football. So many people, CTE in football, other sports as well, right? And people getting involved in this from a scientific standpoint. We need to do things. NFL has done this with helmets, and even moving further. Boxing is competing with MMA, things of this sort of thing. Is it time for, and put you on the spot here, in terms of this sport starting to do more things, like maybe requiring headgear, things like that in that sport? Is that something you addressed in this film, or do you personally have thought on that?
Yeah, it's a great point. I think that most of the boxers I know would be pretty opposed to wearing headgear, which would probably be better for them, and who knows, that could, we just saw the NFL has this, are allowing players to wear those caps this year, and I do definitely think that there is some evolving that boxing has to do. What I mainly think about is just trying to inject a bit more intelligence and, I think, sensitivity into the sport. And in terms of the fact that most fighters are valued for their their aggression and their ability to take hits, and boring fighters are often not rewarded.
Right.
So fighters are incentivized to put themselves in hot situations, and I don't always think that we as the fans and as the audience truly appreciate that, understand that, and I especially don't think that we understand quite how feeble this sport is at large, and quite how vulnerable these fighters are. So I would love for people to kind of, it's hard for me to watch boxing now, and I see two guys in there, and it's unless you're dealing kind of with fighters at the very top, and even then it's still tough. It's these guys are fighting to feed their families, and they're fighting for some real strong causes.
Don't want you to give away, I know you wouldn't give away the premise of this and the way this documentary ends, but what do you think people should take away from this effort, for what Mr. Saucedo would want people to take away from this movie, so that people are clear on the messaging?
I don't want to put too much in people's heads. I hope, first off, that they like the movie, and they develop some kind of fondness for Alex, and also I hope that it can inspire someone in just about any way, and if it could just inject that much more, I think definitely the ability to help people, not take what we have for granted. It sounds so generic, but to really understand that even though Alex is a boxer, and his situation, was special, these are things that we all have to deal with, and I hope that people can find a way to relate with it personally.
Emmett Berg is the director of Saucedo, about Oklahoma City's Alex Saucedo. It looks like a great film. Can't wait to see it. Thanks for coming to Oklahoma City.
Thanks so much for having me.